everybody. Welcome to Michelle's Inspiration Hour. And I hope that each inspirational story that we have on gives you a daily dose of hope. All right, so I'm so excited about our next guest. And I'm going to start it by introducing him by saying, let yourself off the hook. Join us on a transformative journey with Liam Naden, a renowned speaker, teacher, writer, and researcher, as he unravels the secret of true success in life. As a host, Liam shares his profound insights into utilizing the power of the human brain to overcome obstacles, achieve dreams, and liberate yourself from frustration, which I need to know. I need to know his secret, the keys to success. All right, let's go ahead and bring him on. Hello, hello. How are you doing?
Hi, Michelle. I'm very well, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm really honored to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. And we are honored to hear about your inspiration and about your journey that really found you where you are today. But the first question that I really want to ask you first, if somebody came to you and they're going, you know what? I need some inspiration this week. It can be over anything. What is your favorite words of inspiration?
Do you mean a saying or an expression or
Whatever you
an
feel,
action? If you
whatever
want,
you feel.
okay,
Yeah.
if you want some instant inspiration, here's the thing. Switch off your thoughts and look around you and spend 10 minutes really noticing what's going on. Now, ideally, you do it in nature. So maybe go outside and sit in the park or just walk around. But even if you're in your home or in your office, if you really stop this overactive thinking brain and start seeing what's really going on around you and inside you, you're going to see something quite profound, and that in itself can inspire you for the rest of your life. Just actually observing what this world that we live in actually is, and it's different from what we think it is.
Absolutely, the brain clutter that we always have, and I love that inspiration message. So let's talk about your journey. And it's so interesting because whenever I went to your website, I saw ocean and I saw ocean and I saw more ocean. So you can tell that you are the ocean guy. And that's probably where your soul needs to be. So, kind of tell us about where you come from and what really got you on the journey that you are on today.
Okay, well, the reason for the ocean is I've just finished 8 years of sailing around Europe on my own
Oh my
boat.
gosh.
In fact, three boats. We had three boats, not all at once. Um, and that was never, funnily enough, that was never a goal or a dream or something I'd always thought about. But how did it happen? That's what I wonder, because it was an amazing experience. As I say, we visited 15 countries, my partner and I, and just it was such a wonderful experience where you just wake up in the morning and whether you decide to go to the next port or you stay where you are or you're anchored in a beautiful bay, whether it's in the Greek islands or in Norway or Sweden or any of the countries in between. So how I got to that point of being able to really, what people would say, live my dream, just sailing around the world, if you like, spending 8 years doing it. How I started out, and really this is the basis of what I teach now about how your brain works, but probably for most of my life, I was like probably what most of your listeners or many of your listeners are like, and that is, I wanted to know the secrets to success. I wanted to know, how can I have the best life possible? How can I be really happy and successful and, live a great life? I didn't want to just be mediocre and, wake up in the morning dreading my life and just thinking, oh, is this all there is? So I did a lot of things. I started off in a religious family, and my upbringing was in a religious family. And, I looked there for the answers first, and there were answers there. And the answer I found in religion was, if you want to be happy and successful, you just pray to God. You ask God for what you want, and God will give it to you. So I really tried that. And I remember when I was about 10 or 11, I thought, I'm going to test God on this one and see if it actually works. And I went to early morning mass every day in the middle of winter for a month, asking God that I could win a competition at school. I thought, if this works, I'm going to really try to see if it works. Well, I didn't win the competition. And I noticed that my parents, my teachers, the people around me, even though they were saying this is how you become happy and successful, that you pray to God and God will give you whatever you ask for, they weren't really any happier or more successful than anyone else that I knew either. So I thought, well, maybe that's not the answer, and it didn't really work for me. So I tried a whole lot of different things. I was then told you should get an education. So I went to university and studied music actually for about 7 years, and really enjoyed it, became highly knowledgeable. But again, my professors and other people, they weren't any happier or more successful despite all the knowledge they had. And then someone said, well, you should have your own business. So I got into my own business, and I've had, at last count, about 18 different businesses in my life. And because I was led to believe, well, if you want to be happy, make a lot of money, have your own business, you'll have freedom, you'll be able to do all the things you want to do. And that certainly did happen for me, but I also ended up with a lot of stress and problems in my life as well. And I came to believe that problems and stress, they're just a natural part of being successful. You have to learn to overcome your problems. You're going to have problems. Now, I've since discovered that none of that's true, actually. But at the time, I thought that's what it was all about. And at the same time, I was doing all sorts of seminars and reading books on motivation, personal development, spirituality, self-help. I was going to seminars all around the world. I was doing courses. I was listening to tapes to reprogram my subconscious mind and change my beliefs and set goals and do all these sorts of things. So I thought, well, I'm pretty successful, but why don't I feel successful? There's something missing. I still feel stressed. There's still problems that keep showing up in my life, and I still don't really feel I've quite got the handle on being in control of my life and getting what I'm really looking for, which is that sense of fulfillment and inner happiness. So anyway, there I was really successful on the outside, a multi-millionaire, had the houses, the multiple businesses, and then something happened that should never have happened, and that was in my mid-40s, I lost everything. I literally became homeless and penniless. I had nothing, and I had to move and back and live with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in her living room. I had no friends, no prospects. Everything was gone. And a couple of questions came to my mind during that time. The first was, why has this happened to me? Because I know how to create success. I know about goal setting, motivation, having the right thoughts, doing the right things, getting all this information, trying all of these different things. I knew how to do that, but it wasn't on my goals list to lose everything and become homeless. So that puzzled me. And the other thing that really puzzled me was the question I kept asking myself was, well, what do I do now? I have no clue. And I literally had no idea on how I was going to get myself out of the situation because I had nothing. I was in a town that I'd never lived in, where my mother lived. So I had no friends or no contacts or anything like that. So anyway, what happened? I got through that experience. And then I started to rebuild my life, and I attracted a much healthier love relationship than I'd ever had before. So that was going really well. And I was starting to set up new businesses and do things that I really enjoyed. And one of the things, and live some dreams that I actually never realized that I had, one of which was to sail around the world on my own yacht for 8 years, it turned out. So what I wanted to know, I remember once thinking, what's going on here? Because it was very different, this new experience. My old experience was about chasing after success, always looking for the bigger goal, struggle, stress, dealing with problems, trying to gather more information and figure out what I should do, and constantly living with stress and problems. But now my life, on the other side, if you like, it was almost like success was chasing me, because I was no longer struggling and going after things. People were coming to me with ideas. Things were happening in my life. And I was coming up with new ideas, and there were new situations, things that I'd never thought about, but it all worked really well. And although I was working really hard, and of course still am, I was enjoying things. and there weren't the problems and the stress. Things were actually working in a much more flowing and easier way. So I thought, I need to figure out what's different. What am I doing that's different? Because I want to make sure I keep doing it. And the thing that I realized when I started to back engineer what I was doing, and in fact, by this stage, I was also doing a lot of marriage and relationships work, helping people with their marriage problems. And I found that there were patterns of behavior as well, that people were doing things in a certain way that made them succeed in what they were trying to achieve. And other people were trying to succeed and they weren't getting there. And I thought, what's the difference? And what I discovered was, for myself, what I was doing differently and what other people were doing differently had nothing to do with the amount of information that people had. It had nothing to do with the amount of motivation that people had, or myself. Didn't depend on how hard they tried, didn't depend on how much they prayed. There was something else at work. And what I realized was, when I really analyzed everything, I thought, the one thing I've been missing here all of these years, and that I hear very little, I've never really heard anything about, is that we actually live in a world where we're governed by natural laws. We are physical, biological beings. And if we don't think the laws of nature run everything, then just try walking out a 10-story building and thinking that you're going to go up in the air. You can be motivated, you can pray, you can believe, but you're going to go down, because the law of gravity is going to determine what happens to you in your life. And when I started to study this more and more, I realized there's actually nature, all of natural life is set up and designed with certain laws as well. And the most important one is, we all have a biological purpose. Every living thing has a biological purpose, and that purpose is to survive. Everything is wired to survive. And that means that everything is also wired to be the best that it can be, because when it is its most successful, we're talking about all organisms, all living things, including us, when every living thing, or when a living thing is at its best and most successful, that gives it the best chance for survival. So we're actually all literally wired biologically to be successful. And the reason we're not, the reason why most people, because if you were to ask most people, well, are you being the best that you can be? Do you feel that you're successful? Or do you have problems? And most people would say, no, they didn't feel that they were the best that they could be, and that they did have problems. Well, there's only one reason for that, that somehow you're not going with the natural law or the natural way of things, that the way they actually are. And
Mhm.
that's really the basis of what I teach now.
So, why do you think people fight against that? The natural law. Why do we fight about it and go, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm going to go this direction, when they should know that they need to go a different way? So, why do we fight that?
Well, there's really two reasons, which come down to being one. One is biological and the other is
Mhm.
psychological, but the two are actually intertwined, because the way I teach it, you actually have two biological states. One is your natural state, where you are designed to be the best that you can be. And the way this all works is, we have this machine that's designed to make this happen, which is called our brain. The brain is literally, every living thing has a brain, and all the brain is a machine designed to ensure that that organism is the best that it can be, so that it has the greatest chance for survival. And for humans, that means being happy, because when we're happy, we are being the best that we can be. We are being our most successful. So to answer your question, why people are fighting against this,
Mhm.
firstly, they don't realize this is how it works. But biologically, you have this mechanism, which is your fight or flight mechanism. You might have heard of that. And the
Mhm.
purpose of that, if we're designed to be in what I call our natural creative state, which is activating a part of the brain which is there to ensure that we become the best that we can be without problems, and living our biological purpose. But every now and then,
Hi, if you are being inspired by this episode, please share with somebody that will also be inspired. We are here to change the world. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
maybe once or twice in our lifetime at the most, we might be faced with an immediate threat to our survival. It might be a car comes towards us and we have to jump out of the way, or somebody is about to hit us and we have to protect ourselves. Now, this biological feature was set up millions of years ago when we were biologically designed for when there were a lot of threats and dangers to our survival. The lion behind the rock.
Right.
So this fight or flight is there to be activated in those very rare occasions where, instead of being the best that you can be and being in your natural creative state, you have to react to a threat or a danger. So the thing about that particular state, there's a few things about it. One is that it blocks off your natural creative ability. So all of the things like your problem-solving ability, this particular state where you know clearly what you should be doing, you know the right things to do, and you feel motivated to do them. The right circumstances all show up in your life, and you can see the right things to do, whether in terms of being solutions to problems or knowing the right goals you should set for yourself. You have this clarity of thinking. That is our natural creative state. And that's when we're really happy. And, it's called being in the flow, being in the zone. People have described it like that. But the only time you're not supposed to be in that natural state, allowing your brain to ensure that you're the best that you can be so that you have the greatest chance for survival. The only time when that's not appropriate is when a lion runs out from behind the tree or the car comes towards you. So, and we have this emergency weapon, our fight or flight, which when we activate, it reacts to get rid of that danger so we can go back to being in our natural creative state. But as I said, the thing about that state, when there's this fight or flight, what activates it is fear. And fear in all of its forms, which is worry, stress, anxiety, anger, frustration. So what we don't realize is whenever we feel any of those emotions, what's actually happening is our brain is telling us there's a threat to our survival. And not only that, it's shutting down all of the problem-solving, creative, resourceful, imaginative, intuitive, motivated part of us that will help us get us to where we want to go. But we resist allowing that part of the brain to take over, because when we feel stressed, worried, and anxious, our brain is telling us that we're very limited, that we have limited resources, and we have to fight to survive. So that's what causes all the struggle in people's life, that their brain is telling them that life is a struggle, rather than allowing the part of their brain that says life's not supposed to be a struggle. I'm designed to bring you the good stuff if you let me. We don't let that part work properly. And that's why we create all this resistance in our life. And we don't trust, because we don't understand that this is how the brain works, for a start. So we don't allow it to do its job properly. And we're busy trying to force things all the time. We're trying to figure out what our goals should be. We're trying to get more information and struggle and overcome problems. So we keep saying to ourselves, why have I got so many problems in my life? And we don't know what to do. This is, in this state, people say, I'm totally confused. My brain is not I can't figure it out.
Right.
Your brain's not designed to know the answer to anything in that state. It can't. It's the wrong part of your brain. It's designed to shut down all of your awareness, so you run away from the lion, or you fight off the attacker. So we resist all this because we're using the wrong part of our brain, which is keeping us stuck. And that's why I say you need to let yourself off the hook, which is to get unstuck and stop using that part of your brain and expecting that if you think that when you're stressed, frustrated, and angry and worried and afraid, if you think you're going to be able to get your life working right, you just never will. All you do is create this endless cycle of problems in your life and frustration, because you're using a part of your brain that's not designed to ever get you to create the right life for you.
And oh my gosh, wonderful, wonderful information. I love that. And and I love how you described, get yourself off the hook, because I was going to ask you why you came up with that phrase. But I always hear that we are the product of our environment. So whenever we're younger, we have all of these environmental situations going on. And I think that's where, like you said, a lot of fear comes into because of the situation. And we also learn, we get programmed on what is right and wrong. So, how do you tell people to get that state of mind to change? Because it sounded like you changed as well when you lost everything. It's almost like you got reprogrammed and said, okay, I'm going to restart. So, what do you tell people that are in that situation?
Well, there's two things, and actually, I have a whole coaching program. I let yourself off the hook masterclass where I teach but essentially, it really comes down to three things. There's only three things you need to do. Firstly, you need to really understand how your brain works, because your brain is a machine, and it's designed to do its job perfectly. I mean, if you think about any machine like a motor car, you know that a motor car is a machine that's designed to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And it's going to do that predictably, certain and enjoyably for you. There's not going to be a problem. But if for some reason your car doesn't get you to where you want to go, you don't say, well, that's just the way it is. You say, oh, there's something wrong. You know, I'm having problems. I'm not getting to where I want to go. It's not an enjoyable journey. The car's making funny noises, or it's not moving, whatever it is. You don't accept that. You just say, I must be doing something wrong with the way I'm using the car, or maybe there's some wrong fuel going into it. So that's the first really important thing to realize if you want to get unstuck in your life and really start becoming the best that you can be, rather than fighting with problems all the time and confusion and frustration, is to realize that you have this machine and you just need to learn how to use it the right way. And once you do, you think it's, carrying on the car analogy. Imagine somebody came out of the forest and they'd never seen a car before, and they thought, oh, well, and someone said, well, you should take that. That'll get you 100 miles down the road in an hour if you want. They wouldn't believe you, and they'd go, really? So, and they'd look at the car and they didn't know how to drive it. So they'd think, well, I see it's got wheels. Maybe the way to get it to work is I get behind and I push the car along. So they put in all sorts of energy and huge, motivation. Yes, I'm going to do it. And they try and push the car to its destination. And what happens? The car hardly moves. They don't get anywhere, but they get tired and they say, must be something wrong with me. I'm not putting in enough effort. I'm not motivated enough. I need to change my beliefs and say, yes, I can do it. And they try harder and harder, and it still doesn't work. And someone comes along and says, why are you doing that? And they say, well, I know it's my fault. I'm not trying hard enough. And you say, well, no, you're doing it the wrong way. That's not how you that's not how you drive a car. It's not supposed to be that difficult. So the first important thing is when you realize when you use your brain the right way, it's not supposed to be difficult. Life is not supposed to be a struggle, because this machine is designed to make you the best that you can be. And that's a really important thing to start to understand, because then you give up the struggle and you say, well, why on earth did I do it
Yeah.
that way?
Right.
So, and the second thing is you need to say, what is it about my environment that's making me feel bad? Because remember, every time you feel bad, you're activating what I call the survival, fight or flight part of your brain, the limited shutdown part that's only designed to fight off an attacker, that blocks you from understanding what your goals should be and what you should really do to solve a problem. So you need to stop the triggers, if you like, and they can be a conversation with somebody that makes you feel bad, or watching something on the television, or overhearing something else that makes you feel bad. Every time you feel bad, you're activating the wrong part of your brain. So you need to become very, very aware of what you're allowing and how it's going to make you feel. This is just a biological thing. And then the third thing, of course, is you need to get in and say, well, what have I been taught my brain from the day I was born that makes me feel bad? And from the day we've been born, we've been taught all of the wrong stuff about life's hard. Everybody has problems. Life's a struggle. You're not a very powerful person, and you have to work really hard for anything that you want, and you won't get everything you want, and you need to set goals before and work towards them. We have all of these beliefs that we've had programmed into our brain to make it keep triggering this idea that we've got to use this limited part of our brain rather than the unlimited part. And one of the funny things, just to talk about this, is you wonder where, and I could speak for hours about why this is, why we've been given all of these wrong ideas about who we are and how our life actually operates. But if you think about it, one of the best instruction manuals on how to use your brain the right way is actually in every religion, every spiritual tradition, including the Bible. Because what does the Bible say more than 360 times? It says, be not afraid. Trust. But it says those words, be not afraid, more than 360 times.
Wow.
Now, that's not an idea. It doesn't say try not to be afraid, or, it'd be a nice idea. Don't be as afraid. It's not so bad. It says be not afraid, because when you are afraid, you're activating the wrong part of your brain. So we've actually been taught this, that you should avoid feeling fear. And in most cases, we do have the choice as to what we allow to come into our thoughts.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for bringing your expertise. I could listen to you all week. This conversation could continue and could continue and could continue. And I know that you offer other services and you've got podcasts, and it's like, wow, you are just, a man with so much knowledge that's really going to help people. And I think, the overall, what I'm really hearing too, is that you need to become self-aware and be your best advocate. I mean, take action and really know what you need to do, and reach out to people like you, like a coach that knows how to get you where you need to go, because sometimes you need that third party to say, hey, I can help you here. Sometimes you just need a little bit of help. So is there anything that we did not talk about that you wanted to make sure that we did?
No, I just really want to encourage people to find out how their brain works, because it really is the machine that will transform your life in a much more, as it did for me, and instead of carrying on the struggle and trying to get more information and thinking there's something wrong with you, you have this unlimited computer power between your ears that's designed for one job, and that's to make you happy and have the best life possible. That's what it's designed biologically to do. So all you need to do is figure out how to use it. And it's not that difficult to use it the right way, because this is a natural thing. We're all designed naturally to be successful. We don't have to get some fancy, university degree to figure out how to live naturally. But when you understand, it takes understanding to allow this process to work. It's a bit like, again, if you jump out of a 10-story building, you're going to go down. You don't doubt or question it. You just think, well, of course that's what happens. The sun's going to rise tomorrow morning. You don't question it. And it's not a question of faith. It's not that you believe in it or anything like that. You just know it because you understand it. And it's the same with your brain. Once you understand how it works, you don't have to believe it. You just know that's the way it works. And that's what really created such a transformation in my life, and what I help other people with as well, is just this new awareness of how things actually are.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you ready for the last question?
Bring it on.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Okay. I'm going to spin it. See what it comes up with. Oh. I know on the show it's so inspirational, and here we have a question. What is your biggest pet peeve? I know everybody has one, right? Because we're human.
Clarify, what's a peeve? I'm not sure.
Okay. So that means what really bothers you. What, sometimes you like when people don't people's behavior. What is something that a person does that drives you crazy?
Well, I'd like to think I've trained myself not to let anything drive me crazy, because if something drives you crazy, it's not actually about what is happening. It's about what you think it means. And I think maybe my pet peeve is people thinking things should be different to the way they are. People keep having this idea that, this world, we live in a world that isn't perfect and has all these problems, and there's all this confusion and chaos, and there's all these, and we live in this uncertain world.
Yeah.
Nothing is further from the truth. We live in the most amazingly perfect world. But if you're going to use your survival fight or flight brain, of course it's going to look confused. But you can, when you change your awareness by using a different part of your brain, you see the truth that we live in a perfect world. Nothing needs to be any different. And when you realize that about yourself, that's when you become the best version of you, and you contribute the most both to yourself and to the world by being your best.
And see, that pet peeve kind of got you going. You can hear the passion in your voice. That's kind of a goal that you have set for yourself to help others get over that hurdle for them.
Yeah.
So see, pet peeves can be good. Even though we train ourselves trying not to get away from it, they can be inspirational, and it gets your butt going.
For sure. But, I'm inspired and motivated by all the good that's going. I don't need to be motivated by anything that's quote unquote bad, because we won't get into that. That's another 2-hour discussion.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, where can everybody find you, Liam?
Well, my website is just my name, liamnaden.com. And I've actually just launched a new podcast called the Let Yourself Off the Hook podcast, which goes into a lot more detail about this. And I also have a free mini course on my website, which is called How to Unlock Your Success Brain, how to unlock this part of your brain that brings you what you really want and gives you a successful life, rather than you having to struggle using the wrong part of your brain. So all of this is plenty of stuff on my website, just liamnaden.com.
So do you ever take a vacation where you're not doing anything? Or is that not you?
Sailing around the world for 8 years, is that a vacation? I don't know.
Well, it depends on if you do something like work or do podcast or write a book. That's not really vacationing, but it's on perspective, right?
Well, the thing is, I don't think we're designed to separate our life into work and good and bad. Everything's good. And when you start using your creative brain, you're going to be finding you're doing the things that you love, and that's going to be your work. So I don't have set hours, for instance. Sometimes my partner who works with me, we might be working at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. Often my podcasts, and I've written a lot of books and done a lot of stuff, and I come up with an idea and I'll just get up and it'll all just come out perfectly. Whereas if I was to sit down and say, right, well, I'm in my work week, so I need to do that. I don't think that's the way the human brain naturally works anyway. And when you live an inspired life, being the best that you can be, or using this part of your brain, you do the right things at the right time. And sometimes they're lying on a beach, and sometimes it's working at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. So I don't really have this sort of, and I travel permanently. I haven't lived anywhere for more than 12 years. My partner and I, we just travel, and we don't make any plans, set any goals, and it's amazing how productive you get when you're like that.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Liam, thank you. And I'm going to say this one more time. Let yourself off the hook. And I'm going to leave you guys with that, and I will see you soon.